Hi, welcome to the School Marketing Mashup. This is hopefully the first of many live broadcasts. My name is Brendan Schneider. I'm the founder and CEO of Schneider B Media, and I have my good friend Jonathan here. Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Brendan, it is great to see you. We have to love technology. You're up there in, the Pittsburgh area, and I'm down here in the Baltimore area. I'm Jonathan Oleski, president and founder of Calyx Marketing Group, and I'm so excited, Brendan. We've been talking about doing this for a while. We both have immersed ourselves in the independent school ecosystem, and we connect with a lot of independent school marketers, educators, lay leaders, and I'm looking forward to making this a monthly conversation.
Yeah, I am as well, Jonathan. So today, our topic is what is a normal admission season post COVID-19? And we thought this was a good topic because it's the beginning of the admission season, and we have ideas. And let's jump into those. So here's the first question, Jonathan. What does it look like in a post-COVID environment? What do you think?
Well, look, the $64,000 cliched question is to Zoom, which this is part of our technology today, or to have it in person. And, you hear so many different opinions. Obviously, everybody wants families back on campus, right? That's the optimal. But I don't think we want to forget that if you're a boarding school, people have gotten used to looking at you and getting to know your admissions team in your community via Zoom. Even if you're a busy urban campus, say in the Chicago area, and you might have a 15, 20, 30 mile radius where you're drawing families from. And if parents are busy, and what if you just said to your Chicago folks, hey, we're only going to have in-person events, but some of those busy parents are like, well, wait a minute, can't we do a hybrid? Like, can't I go to the event and maybe my wife, who's got a bunch of board meetings, do it on Zoom? I mean, what are your thoughts, Brendan?
Yeah, I agree fully. I think that, so for me, it goes back to customer service. So what is best for the prospective families? And I don't think that schools have been very good about making it about the family. They always make it, and I don't think this was even maybe implicit or, it wasn't, it's just a bias that we have as an industry where it's what's easier for us and we're not necessarily thinking about the families. So I think from a customer service perspective, we should absolutely really offer everything that we can. So to your point, Jonathan, if we can have in-person events, absolutely, we want to get people on campus. But if we can have those events for the mom that has board meetings and can't come during the day or whatever it is, you should have multiple ways to interact with families. And I think a good exercise for schools to do now is to sit down and think about what do we like from that 2-year stretch or 3, depending on how you look at it. And hopefully we're getting out of it. I'm looking at the date.
Oh, I hope so. Don't you? Oh, although both you and I are going to get on airplanes tomorrow.
I know. So it'll be interesting, but hopefully we're out of it. But what worked really well, what didn't work really well, and what can we take going forward?
Well, to your point there, how many of NAIS independent schools, so what's that, about 1,600 schools around the country-ish?
I know it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. How many actually had dynamic virtual tours all queued up on their website ready to go before COVID? Yeah,
very,
right.
Very, very.
And how many do today, right? So just think about that. Let's go back to the example of the fictitious school in Chicago that, what a great way if you're looking at a high school, first of all, for the potential student to just take a virtual tour before they even come to campus.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity for mom and mom, dad and dad, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa who might be funding it. And, they live in Tucson, Arizona, and they're not getting on a plane to Chicago, but they could sure look at a link and take a quick virtual tour and say, oh, Brendan, can we help fund Chicago day school for your children for you? Well, you'd love that, right?
Twist my arm now. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right that you think about the customer service journey and as we talk to school leaders around the country, I think that phrase, just the customer service journey in and of itself, is a bit of a new experience for some school leaders.
I think it is, and I think that schools, if they, I mean, we haven't talked about this, Jonathan, but like 10 to 20 years ago, maybe more towards 20, marketing was a bad word at schools.
Right.
Right. And now I think it's, as people talk about customer service, that's kind of the new bad word at schools. And I think that really became evident during COVID. And I think it was one of those changes, like a lot of changes during COVID, that it was happening and COVID accelerated it. And here we are. So, and then,
but it's interesting. You think about the negative connotations around the customer service journey, and think about the teachers that are educating the independent school students, right? Because obviously that's what it's about.
Yeah.
The education, creating a 21st century free thinking young person who can go out in the world and make their own way and make contributions and do well, be set for life. But those teachers too, before COVID, had to find ways to talk to parents, right? I mean, that is part of the customer service experience.
Yeah.
And I think those schools that have leaned into it and embraced it are just better off.
Yeah. Agreed. Let's look at our next question here. Oh, we do have a comment, Jonathan, from, I don't know if you know Gretchen Laurie, who just shares the new normal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. It is the new normal. Like, what is not the new normal, Gretchen, right?
It's crazy. But second question we have is should the admission cycle this season should include on-demand admission events? So can you talk about what you mean by on-demand?
Yeah. So for instance, we did a project a number of years ago, actually during COVID, right at the start of COVID, for a large East Coast Catholic school. And we created a home microsite. And what they did, which was really smart, they recorded obviously all of kind of the classroom sessions one-on-one, because no one could come to campus. So, it was experiences like this where the teachers were explaining, the faculty were explaining what they were doing. And it was live, right? But then they said to us, hey, we want to curate this so it becomes on demand. So if Jonathan and Debbie Oleski want to look at this with their daughters 6 months from now, as long as it's still relevant, they can just click on the website and watch it on demand at 9:00 at night. And I think that's smart, right? What's the cliche? You have to meet prospective parents where they are.
Yeah.
We live in a day of Netflix, texting. I could go on, but let's make it easy to engage, right?
Yeah, for me, this is a no-brainer. The answer is yes. It's just, what does that content look like?
Right.
And then for me to think about it is that you've created the content. Do you have an opportunity to create a conversion point? Meaning,
good point.
Do you want to gate it, so to speak, so that someone has to give you their email address? Because like you've created the content, you can get their email address, drop them in lead nurturing email, or then follow up. But like if it's 10:00 at night and somebody wants to research schools because they're busy or they're excited about it, you should be able to give them that opportunity. At least I think.
No, I love it. And are you going with, we should gate it and they have to give you your email to kind of go through that to see it all? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm going to give a crappy answer. It depends. I think it depends on what content. Some of it you have to gate, I think. Some of it you don't. There are actually technologies, and this might make people upset, but technologies like Wistia video hosting has what they call gating in the middle. So let's say a video's 6 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 minutes, when you suck them in, you can have a screen pop up with an email, like enter your email to watch the rest. I don't know how I feel about that. That seems a bit of bait and switch.
Yeah.
But I think you should test it. I think there are some things that you should, some things that you should probably let people see to research. What do you think?
Yeah. And look, what's fundamental 101 of good marketing is test. The A/B split, so maybe 50% of your views are going to have a gate and 50% are not.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do you measure the 50% there that's not gated?
Yeah. The one thing you could do, well, this gets technical in the weeds, but you could have that video on a separate page and then remark it.
Right.
things that you could do
Yeah.
use your marketing
Yeah.
ads.
I think the big takeaway here is the consumer, right? We're going back to the educational consumer. Parents are consuming education here. They're making that investment for their children. They've come to expect this now, right?
Yeah.
If you I can't remember the last time we went to a movie theater, but we can pull Netflix up whenever we want, right? So if you can't get to a campus, let's make it so it's really easy for families to get a great sense of your school online. Make it simple.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's look at our last question here. What are the benefits of continuing to have hybrid events? Have we covered this, or is there anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the admissions directors that I know, and I met you when you were an admissions director, right? You directed a whole team, and I'll bet today's admissions colleagues probably have real mixed feelings about this because they want families and parents and students they want them to walk on campus. That's the ultimate. We all want that, but just when it's not possible, I think we have to remove every obstacle to engagement, because more engagement, ultimately, you're going to bring more people into the funnel, you're going to move them through, and ultimately you will convert them. You want to have that wide funnel instead of narrow.
Completely. And I would just actually pull something that you said from the second question, which is that families expect this now, or versions of this. And this is where I think schools have struggled for so long, is that because our parents are being marketed to in a certain way by big brands that everybody knows, we'll not name them, and our schools are behind, and there's a disconnect there. And then I think frustration, and like you talk about Netflix, like I get upset now when I see a new movie trailer and they're like, it's going to be released in the theaters. I'm so used to sitting at home.
We all are.
Conversation, but
I
think for families, they go to school websites and they want content because they want to research themselves, and then they can't get to it, or it's not there, or worse, they're going to third-party sites and they leave you. Which that's a whole nother conversation.
Correct.
I think it's stuff for schools to think about.
Yeah, and look, I think for all schools out there, experiment, test, don't be afraid to lean into the technology, and by the same token, embrace dynamic ways to bring people onto campus, right? You now have to do it all. So for those smaller schools, your board's got to make the investment in probably a larger admissions team and a larger communications marketing team to do this. And you've got to find great partners to work with externally, because the complexities have only increased due to COVID.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that's a great place to stop, Jonathan. Again, here's the big question. I would just leave everybody today with this, is that I'm old now, and the older I get, I realize the less I know. So if you are watching this later and you disagree with us, there's something to add, comment, please let us know. Jonathan and I will get back to you, but we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the cliche is true. It takes a village. That's how independent school marketing gets better. We all help each other. There are hundreds and hundreds of schools around the country in the United States and America. Well, there we go. I'm duplicitous there. Pardon me. Around the world that could use our help.
That's right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to or watching the School Marketing Mashup, and we'll be back again soon. Jonathan, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brendan. Take care. Bye-bye.